Welcome to Investors Insights. Our topic today is playing chess, not checkers. The reason we chose that topic is every morning when we come in here, we are having debates and discussions, looking at it from different points of view. A lot of research goes on behind the scenes, and in today's discussions, although heated, the insight was good. It's where we ask ourselves the questions, how do we know we're right? Well, guess what? There's no guarantee, but at the same time, by being able to put all this information together, we can focus in on trends and those topics and events that can impact clients' portfolios. So on that, Bobby, you got into the discussion. The big theme, this week, of course, is tariffs, and you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So last week we traded back, especially on Thursday and Friday, and the reason for that was Trump announced tariffs on about $50 billion worth of imports, and then China on Friday retaliated, saying they're going to put a tariff on 128 American products coming into China.
Right.
So obviously the mainstream news talking about trade wars, and that's why we traded back. Now that died down a little bit over the weekend as China said, okay, let's go to the table and talk. But when these things happen, again, we look at the numbers. Just like last week, we talked about the positive impact of tax reform and repatriation.
Right.
Kind of outshining the noise of tariffs.
Yeah.
This week is kind of the same. Tuesday, we've got consumer confidence coming out. That's going to be a very important number. It's been trending up, so we need that to continue. And then on Thursday, we have consumer spending. And so while the noise of the trade war is going on, we're looking at the numbers, and the numbers could be really good, especially going into earnings season. Earnings revisions are moving up, so we're looking at corporate earnings.
Right,
to
I will put a challenge out there to those of you watching this vlog. Go back and watch last week's vlog. Look at our information that we have, because you will see that we talked about pro-growth that's taking place in this country. We also have to emphasize that the markets and the research that's out there, as well as with media, they have to understand that due to deregulation and pro-growth tax cuts, the industries and economy have separated from government, and that's playing a key role.
Our topic of chess, not checkers, I think that applies two ways in our morning's discussion. One, I think companies are playing chess while the media is focusing on checkers.
That's an excellent
Companies
way.
are getting well ahead of what the media is focused on. The downside is the market is influenced by the media.
Yes.
We saw that last week. And so kind of catching up to how complicated and how positive the companies are using all this new new tax laws, the new deregulation. They're way ahead of everybody else. And you can see that in the earnings revisions. Right. That's kind of the chess. You see the media focus on kind of the broader topics of checkers. And then also, talking to the trade, the fact that China came out so quickly, just like that, with 128 very focused tariffs. We did a big broad. First, we did a broad steel and aluminum tariff across the world. Then we did a broad $50 to $60 billion in tariffs on China, and they immediately reacted with something. They had that locked and loaded.
Right.
It's quite clear that China, in terms of a global trade war, they're playing chess while the rest of the world seems to be playing checkers. The good news is that the U.S. is at least playing a game now.
Right.
But they focused on products that are directly influencing areas of the country that voted heavily for Donald Trump.
Right.
So they know these are very focused. They are ahead of the game now. Like Bobby said over the weekend, at least we're finally up to playing the game.
Right, but the debate on tariffs and everybody talking historically they're bad for economics and markets is you have to also understand, is this merely a negotiation tactic by Donald Trump and his administration? If it is, you can make clear decisions on that, that it brings them to the table, going back to the topic, chess versus checkers, is that how are we getting China to come to the table? And we're starting to already see that this morning, that talks are taking place. Market is showing strength again. And then the other theme about trade surpluses, trade deficits, you brought up from a historical standpoint. Actually, talk about that.
Yeah, when you get right down to it, this issue, as Bobby was saying, the domestic stuff of the taxes being improved, the regulation being improved, really overwhelms the trade deficit. You can go all the way back historically, literally to 1607, the founding of Jamestown, up until now. And the United States, the vast majority of those years, has had deficit trade, and they've had a trade war of some type, even in the Reagan administration. The only time that we've had consistent surplus and not much trade war is a 30-year period from 1945 to 1975, and guess why that was? at the end of the World War II, we had devastated industrially our competition. So we were the only game in town for 30 years. So if you historically center on that, makes sense. I mean, it's the only time we've really had it. The rest of the time it's been deficit.
And the good news is also the opposite side of a trade deficit is a current account surplus.
is exactly
so
right.
an investment surplus. So, or when we buy a product from them, we give them $1, they give us a widget. They then take that dollar and invest it in our economy, and that's the opposite end of it. So that's why we've seen our economy grow faster than anybody else's.
It's two-edged, not one-on-one.
That's exactly right. So on that note, we thank you for having us in your office, in your home, or if you're watching this on a laptop. But what we really want to say to you is we're going to keep you updated. There's a lot of data and information we want to relay to you that we can't get just in this particular vlog. And so throughout the week, we'll continue to provide that kind of information, whether one-on-one and in person, or from the standpoint through our social media and internet. So we will keep you updated. We thank you for your time, and we look forward to you having a great week.